In the previous video, I talked about applying dotted rhythms to the scales that you are practicing. Another way I like to practice scales is by playing them backwards. And by backwards, I don't mean by reversing the order of the notes. You keep the order of the notes as is, but instead of playing the scale from the beginning to the end, you start at the end and you slowly make your way to the beginning. Meaning, you start with the last note, or the last two notes, let's say. Then you play the last three notes of the scale. Then you play the last four notes of the scale. Then the last five notes. And so on and so on. So the last six notes. And you add a note each time. Now, of course, when you're actually practicing, you would do each one of those more than once. So you're not going to just do this and then the next one. You would do it a few times. And then you do the last two notes, or the last three notes a few times. And so on. So you actually get some benefit out of the repetition. When you practice this way, you have to make sure that you have written every single right-hand fingering down. Because what happens is that when we play the scale from the beginning, let's say we know that we start on I, and if everything goes well, all the fingers fall in the right notes, and you finish the scale. However, when you're playing the scale from the middle of it or from the end, unless you know the fingering by heart, which chances are you don't, you would have to go to the beginning, play through, and be like, oh, okay, this note is this finger. So take a few moments, just write down all the fingerings, so then you know that the last note of the scale is this finger, the penultimate two notes, etc., are with these fingers. It'll save you some time when you're actually practicing and starting the scale in the middle and adding note at each time. And make sure that you're also, when you're adding the notes, you actually play them in the right time of the beat. If doing it in 4 notes per beat is too hard at first, subdivide the beat so that you have notes that are on the beat and notes that are off beat, and you don't have to worry about having 3 notes that are not really on the beat. What happens when you practice this way is you end up practicing the end of the scale as much as you would have the beginning, because we start from the beginning. It's natural that we end up knowing the beginning of the scale better. So we start off really confidently, and then by the end of by the time we get to the end of the scale, we get into some trouble. This way, you eliminate that chance of getting into some trouble by the time you end the scale by practicing it more and balancing out how well you know it. And you can apply this technique to anything. It doesn't have to be scales. You can apply it to the entire piece. So you can play the last measure of the piece, then the last 2 measures of the piece, the last 3 measures, obviously keeping the right order of the notes, and so on. And by the time you get to the very beginning of the piece, you have practiced that end so many times that you know it just as well as you do at the beginning. Because oftentimes we know the beginning of the piece better than the end. This way, it's all balanced, and when you start the piece, you don't have to worry about making it through because you know you have done the work for it. And I hope this helps you in your endeavor in practicing scales and pieces. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.